In pre-fall 1945, visitors are assembled for the wedding after-party of where Vito Corleone's little girl Connie, Talia Shire, and Carlo Rizzi, Johnny Russo. Vito, Marlon Brando, the top of the Corleone mafia family, is referred to companions and partners as backup parent. He and Tom Hagen, Robert Duvall, the Corleone family legal counselor, are hearing solicitations for favors on the grounds that, as indicated by Italian practice, no Sicilian can decline a solicitation on his little girl's big day. One of the ones who asks the Ware for some help is Amerigo Bonacera, a fruitful undertaker and colleague of the Ware, whose girl was mercilessly beaten by two young fellows since she denied their advances. The men got insignificant discipline from the managing judge. The Ware is disheartened in Bonacera, who'd kept away from most contact with the Ware because of Corleone's evil transactions. The Ware's significant other is backup parent to Bonacera's disgraced girl, a relationship the Ware uses to extricate new dedication from the funeral director. The Ware consents to have his men rebuff the young fellow's dependable, in a non-deadly way, as a trade-off for future help if important. In the meantime, the Ware's most youthful child Michael, Al Pacino, a Brighton U.S. Marine legend getting back from the Second Great War administration, shows up at the wedding and tells his better half Kay Adams, Diane Keaton, stories about his family, illuminating her about his dad's criminal life. He consoles her that he is unique in relation to his family and doesn't want to go along with them in their criminal dealings. The wedding scene fills in his basic work until the end of the film, as Michael acquaints the principal characters with Kay. Fredo, John Cazale, Michael's next more established sibling, is a piece inept and very tipsy when he tracks down Michael at the party. Santino, who is nicknamed Sonny, James Caan, the Ware's oldest kid and next in line to become Ware upon his dad's retirement, is hitched, yet he is a hot-tempered swinger who slips into a room to engage in sexual relations with one of Connie's bridesmaids, Lucy Mancini, Jeannie Lanero. Tom Hagen isn't connected with the family by blood, however is viewed as one of the Ware's children since he was destitute when he got to know Sonny in the Little Italy neighborhood of Manhattan, and the Ware took him in and saw to Tom's childhood and schooling. Presently a skilled lawyer, Tom is being prepped for the significant place of consigliere, guide, to the Ware, regardless of his non-Sicilian legacy. Likewise among the visitors at the festival is the renowned vocalist Johnny Fontane, Al Martino, Corleone's godson, who has come from Hollywood to request of Vito's assistance in handling a film job that will renew his hailing profession. Jack Woltz, John Marley, the top of the studio, denies Fontane the section, a person similar as Johnny himself, which will make him a considerably greater star, yet where Corleone clears up for Johnny, I will make him a proposition he can't afford to ignore. The Ware likewise gets salutary greetings from Luca Brasi, a frightening master in the criminal hidden world, and takes care of a solicitation from the pastry specialist, Nazarene, who made Connie's wedding cake, who wants for his nephew Enzo to turn into an American resident. After the wedding, Hagen is dispatched to Los Angeles to meet with Woltz, yet Woltz irately lets him know that he won't ever projected Fontane in the job. Woltz holds resentment on the grounds that Fontane tempted and destroyed a diva who Woltz had been prepping for fame and with whom he had a sexual relationship. Woltz is convinced to give Johnny the job, in any case, when he gets up promptly the following morning and feels something wet in his bed. He pulls back the sheets and winds up in a pool of blood. He shouts with sickening apprehension when he finds the cut-off top of his valued $600,000 stud horse, Khartoum, in the bed with him. An erased scene from the film suggests that Luca Brasi, Lenny Montana, Vito's top button man or hired gunman, is mindful. Upon Hagen's return, the family meets with Virgil the Turk Salazzo, Al Lettieri, who is being upheld by the adversary to Talia family. He asks Ware Corleone for supporting as well as political and lawful insurance for bringing in and appropriating heroin. Regardless of the enormous benefit to be made, Vito Corleone declines, making sense of that his political impact would be imperiled by a move into the opiates exchange. The appointed authorities and lawmakers he's aligned himself with throughout the span of a very long while would disavow their companionships with him if he somehow happened to enter the medication exchange. The Ware's oldest child, Sonny, who had prior encouraged the family to enter the opiates exchange, breaks rank during the gathering and starts to scrutinize Salazzo's confirmations regarding the Corleone family's speculation being insured by the Talia family. His dad, irate at Sonny's discord in a non-relative's presence, quiets Sonny with a solitary look and secretly censures him later. Ware Corleone then dispatches Luca Brasi to invade Salazzo's association and report back with data. During the gathering, while Brasi is twisted around to permit Bruno Tattaglia to light his cigarette, he is cut in the hand by Salazzo, and is in this way garroted by a professional killer. Not long after his gathering with Sollozzo, where Corleone is gunned down in a death endeavor right external his office, and it isn't quickly known whether he is made due. Fredo Corleone had been allocated driving and security obligation for his dad when Paulie Gatto, the ware's standard protector, had phoned in debilitated. Fredo ends up being insufficient, bungling with his firearm and unfit to fire back. At the point when Sonny catches wind of the ware being shot and Paulie's non-attendance, he arranges Clemenza, Richard S. Castellano, one of his dad's two capo regimes, to track down Paulie and carry him to the ware's home. Sollozzo snatches Tom Hagen and holds him for a few hours, convincing him to offer Sonny the arrangement recently proposed to his dad. At the point when Tom is delivered, Sollozzo gets word that the ware has endured the endeavor on his life. He furiously advises Tom to persuade Sonny to acknowledge his deal. Incensed, Sonny will not think about it and issues a final proposal to the Tatalias, turn over Sollozzo or face an extensive, horrendous and expensive, for the two sides, pack war. They decline, and on second thought sends Sonny a Sicilian message, as two new fish enveloped by Luca Brasi's tactical armor, let the Corleones know that Luca Brasi lays down with the fishes. Clemenza later takes Paulie and one of the family's contract killers, Rocco Lamp 1, for a crash into Manhattan. Sonny needs to take care of business, set up beds in condos for Corleone button men to work out of if the wrongdoing war breaks out. Returning from Manhattan, Clemenza has Paulie stop the vehicle in a far-off region so he can pee. Rocco shoots Paulie dead. He and Clemenza abandon Paulie and the vehicle. Michael, whom the other mafia families consider a non-military personnel and not engaged with hoard business, visits his dad at a little confidential clinic subsequent to eating with Kay at her inn. He is stunned to observe that nobody is protecting him. A medical caretaker lets him know that the men were obstructing emergency clinic strategy and were educated to leave by the police regarding 10 minutes before Mike's appearance. Understanding that his dad is again being set up to be killed, he calls Sonny for help, moves his dad to another room, and goes outside to watch the entry. Michael enrolls help from Enzo the cook, Gabriel Torre, who has come to the emergency clinic to offer his appreciation. Together, they feign away Sollozzo's men as they drive by. Squad cars before long seem bringing the bad Chief McCluskey, real Hayden, who violently punches Michael in the cheek and breaks his jaw when Michael suggests that Sollozzo paid McCluskey to set up his dad. All of a sudden, Hagen shows up with investigators for hire authorized to convey weapons to safeguard where Corleone, and he brings the harmed Michael back home. Sonny answers by having Bruno Tattaglia, Tony Giorgio, the oldest child and underboss of where Philip Tattaglia, Victor Rendina, killed, behind the scenes. Following the endeavor on the ware's life at the emergency clinic, Sollozzo demands a gathering with the Corleones, which Commander McCluskey will go to as Sollozzo's guardian. At the point when Michael volunteers to kill the two men during the gathering, Sonny and the other senior relatives are entertained. In any case, Michael persuades them that he is significant and that killing Sollozzo and McCluskey is to the family's advantage. It's not private. It's on the up and up. On the grounds that Michael is viewed as a regular citizen, he will not be viewed as a dubious envoy for the Corleones. Despite the fact that cops are normally beyond reach for hits, Michael contends that since McCluskey is bad and has unlawful dealings with Sollozzo, he is fair game. Michael likewise suggests that journalists that the Corleones have on their finance would savor the experience of distributing tales about a bad police commander. Michael meets with Clemenza, who readies a little gun for him, covering the trigger and hold with tape to forestall any unique mark proof. He educates Michael about the legitimate method for playing out the death and advises him to abandon the weapon. He likewise lets Michael know that the family were all exceptionally pleased with Michael for turning into a conflict legend during his administration in the Marines, and that a conflict like the looming one that Sollozzo's and McCluskey's killings will start is fundamental about each 5 to 10 years to wipe out the desire and disdain that forms between the five families. Clemenza shows extraordinary certainty that Michael can play out the gig and lets him know it will all go without a hitch. The arrangement is to have the Corleone sources figure out the area of the gathering and plant the pistol before Michael, Sollozzo, and McCluskey show up. Before he leaves for the gathering, Sonny tells Michael he'll get word to Kay about not bidding farewell. Before the gathering in a little Italian cafe in the Bronx, McCluskey searches Michael for weapons and thinks that he is spotless. Following a couple of moments where Michael and Sollozzo talk in Italian, Michael pardons himself to go to the washroom, where he recovers the established pistol. Getting back to the table, he lethally shoots Sollozzo, then McCluskey. Michael is shipped off conceal in Sicily while the Corleone family plans for full-scale fighting with the five families, who are joined against the Corleones, as well as an overall clampdown on the horde by the police and government specialists. After 90 days, when Noir gets back from the clinic, he is distressed to discover that it was Michael who killed Sollozzo and McCluskey. In the meantime, Connie and Carlo's marriage is breaking down. They contend much of the time over Carlo's thought disloyalty and his possessive way of behaving toward Connie. By Italian custom, no one, not so much as a high-positioning mafia-ware, can mediate in a wedded couple's very own questions, regardless of whether they include unfaithfulness, cash, or homegrown maltreatment. At some point, Sonny sees an injury all over and she lets him know that Carlo hit her after she inquired as to whether he was taking part in an extramarital entanglements. Sonny finds and seriously beats Carlo in a jam-packed road for mistreating the pregnant Connie, and takes steps to kill Carlo on the off chance that he at any point hurts Connie once more. An irate Carlo answers by plotting with Talia and where Emilio Barzini, Richard Conte, the Corleone's main adversaries, to have Sonny killed. Afterward, Carlo has one of his paramours telephone his home, realizing that Connie will reply. The lady requests that Connie tell Carlo not to meet her this evening. The exceptionally pregnant and troubled Connie pitches a fit, tossing the plates with their supper around the lounge area and kitchen. Carlo exploits the squabble to beat Connie to draw Sonny out in the open and away from the Corleone compound. At the point when Connie telephones the compound to let Sonny know that Carlo has beaten her once more, the infuriated Sonny drives off, alone and unprotected, to satisfy his statement against Carlo. While heading to Connie and Carlo's home, Sonny is trapped at a tollgate on the Long Island Interstate and savagely shot to death by a few carloads of contract killers employing Thompson subassault rifles. Tom Hagen transfers the fresh insight about Sonny's slaughter to the Ware, who asks for help from Bonacera to deal with the preserving of Sonny's body actually. As opposed to look for retribution for Sonny's killing, where Corleone meets with the tops of the five families to arrange a truce. Besides the fact that the contention depleting is every one of their resources and undermining their endurance, yet finishing it is the main way that Michael can get back securely. Turning around his past choice, Vito concurs that the Corleone family will give political security to Tatalia's traffic in heroin, for however long it is controlled and not offered to youngsters. At the gathering, where Corleone reasons that where Barzini, not Talia, was eventually behind the beginning of the Horde War and Sonny's passing, in spite of giving early indications of feebleness. In Sicily, Michael persistently endures his exile, safeguarded by Ware Tomasino, Corrado Gaipa, an old family companion. Michael erratically meanders the open country, joined by his always-present guardians, Callo, Franco City, and Fabrizio, Angelo Infanti. In a little town, Michael meets and becomes hopelessly enamored with Apollonia Vitelli, Simonetta Stefanelli, the wonderful youthful girl of a bar proprietor. They court and wed in the conventional Sicilian design, yet soon Michael's presence becomes known to Corleone foes. At some point, while Michael is training his new lady of the hour to drive, Tomasino brings the terrible news about Sonny's death. He needs to film Michael to a more secure area. As the couple is going to leave, Apollonia is killed because of a manipulated vehicle, initially expected for Michael, detonating on start. Michael, who saw the vehicle detonate, spots Fabrizio quickly leaving the ground seconds before the blast, ensnaring him in the death plot. In an erased scene, Fabrizio is found years after the fact and killed. With his well-being ensured, Michael gets back. Over a year after the fact, in 1950, he reunites with his previous sweetheart Kay following a sum of 4 years of division, 3 in Italy and 1 in America. He tells her he maintains that them should be hitched. Despite the fact that Kay is harmed that he stood by so lengthy to reach her, she acknowledges his proposition. With Ware Vito semi-resigned, Sonny dead, and center sibling Fredo considered unequipped for maintaining the privately owned company, Michael is currently in control. He guarantees Kay he will make the privately run company totally authentic in 5 years or less. After 2 years, Clemenza and Salvatore Tessio, Abe Vigata, gripe that they are being moved around by the Barzini family and request that consent strike back. However, Michael denies the solicitation. He intends to move the family tasks to Nevada, and from that point onward, Clemenza and Tessio might split away to frame their own families in the New York region. Michael further commitments Connie's significant other, Carlo, that he will be his right-hand man in Nevada. Carlo had grown up there, uninformed about his part in Sonny's death. Tom Hagen has been taken out as consigliere and is currently just the family's attorney, with Vito filling in as consigliere. Secretly, Hagen asks about his adjustment of status, and furthermore questions Michael about another system of troopers subtly being worked under Rocco Lampuan, Tom Rosca. Where Vito clears up for Hagen that Michael is following up on his recommendation. One more year or so later, Michael goes to Las Vegas and meets with Mo Green, Alex Rocco, a rich and clever club manager hoping to extend his transactions. After the Ware's endeavored death, Fredo had been shipped off Las Vegas to find out about the club business from Green. Michael pompously offers to purchase out Green, yet is discourteously rebuked. Green accepts the Corleones are frail and that he can get a more ideal arrangement from Barzini. As Mo and Michael heatedly arrange, Fredo sides with Mo. After Mo stomps out of the gathering, Michael cautions Fredo to at absolutely no point in the future favor one side with anybody against the family. Michael gets back. In a confidential second, Vito makes sense of his assumption that the family's foes will endeavor to kill Michael by utilizing a confided-in partner to orchestrate a gathering as a guise for death. Vito likewise uncovers that he had never truly expected an existence of wrongdoing for Michael, trusting that his most youthful child would hold genuine power as a representative or lead representative. A few months after the fact, Vito implodes and kicks the bucket while playing with his young grandson Anthony Gunaris, in his tomato garden. At the entombment, Tessio conveys a proposition for a gathering with Barzini, which recognizes Tessio as the double-crosser that Vito was anticipating. Kay inquires as to whether he'll consent to be adoptive parent to Connie and Carlo's infant child. Michael concurs and quickly jumps all over the chance to dispense with rivalry from the other 5 families while additionally involving the submersion as an explanation. The homicides happen at the same time during the function. Where Costello, is gunned down alongside his guardian in a lodging lift by a shotgun employing Clemenza. Mo Green is killed while having a back rub, shot through the eye by an unidentified professional killer. Where Cuneo, Rudy Bond, is caught in a rotating entryway at the SA. Regis lodging and shot dead by fighter Willie Chichi, Joe Spinell. Where Talia is killed in bed, alongside a whore, by Rocco Lampuan and an obscure partner. Where Barzini is killed on the means of his place of business alongside his guardian and driver, shot by Al Neri, Richard Brilliant, camouflaged in his old police uniform. After the submersion, Tessio accepts he and Hagen are en route to the gathering among Michael and Barzini that he has organized. All things being equal, he is encircled by Willie Chichi and other button men as Hagen steps away. Understanding that Michael has uncovered his double-crossing, Tessio lets Hagen know that he generally regarded Michael, and that his unfaithfulness was just business. He inquires as to whether Tom can get him off for bygone era's purpose, yet Tom says he can't. Tessio is driven away and gone forever. It is suggested that Chichi shoots and kills Tessio with his own firearm after he incapacitates him before entering the vehicle. In the meantime, Michael stands up to Carlo about Sonny's homicide and powers him to concede his part in setting up the snare, having been drawn nearer by Barzini himself. The assassins who killed Sonny were the center individuals from Barzini's own protector. Michael guarantees Carlo he won't be killed, yet his discipline is rejection from all privately run company. He hands Carlo a boarding pass to banish in Las Vegas. Nonetheless, when Carlo gets into a vehicle set out toward the air terminal, he is promptly garroted to death by Clemenza, on Michael's requests. Afterward, a crazy Connie stands up to Michael at the Corleone compound as movers divert the furniture in anticipation of the family move to Nevada. She blames him for killing Carlo in revenge for Carlo's ruthless treatment of her and for Carlo's thought contribution in Sonny's homicide, and that Michael cunningly held on until their dad kicked the bucket so Vito couldn't stop him. After Connie is eliminated from the house, Kay questions Michael about Connie's allegation, yet he will not reply, reminding her to never get some information about his business or how he makes ends meet. She demands, and Michael altogether lies, consoling his significant other that he assumed no part in Carlo's passing. Kay trusts him and is feeling better. The film closes with Clemenza and new Capo regimes Rocco Lampuan and Al Neri showing up and offering their appreciation to Michael. Clemenza kisses Michael's hand and welcomes him as Where Corleone. As Kay watches, the workplace entryway is shut.